Oh boy, back to work. Here we go again, back to work tonight. It's Tuesday evening. Hope you guys enjoyed the holiday break. Hope you got some rest. Got a busy first week of July on our radar in front of us here this week. It's Tuesday evening though. We're getting ready for Wednesday's trading session. Got a bunch of great trades setting up for Wacky Wednesday tomorrow morning. I want to make sure you guys know where the best trades are. I'm going to cover all my favorite trades in tonight's video. That way you have a game plan to make some money tomorrow. As always, before we jump in and get this party going, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss tomorrow night's video upload. And if you guys appreciate the video, if you guys enjoy the video tonight, hit that like button for me. Appreciate you guys supporting this YouTube channel. But enough of the intro, right? Let's get ready for Wednesday. Get a lot of really big moves on the charts. We get some big news coming on the calendar for tomorrow. And boy, oh boy, lots of great potentially money-making trades here for tomorrow. Got some really nice, strong trends right now for the bulls on the E-minis and the Nasdaq. We're looking to buy pullbacks, right? Want to buy pullbacks. Maybe those pullbacks turn into reversals. I can definitely see some pullback trades here in the Nasdaq and the S&P, and of course some reversals as well up around, especially that S&P high there at 3860 area. So pretty straightforward game plan on the Nasdaq and the S&P for tomorrow. Over on the oil had one of the biggest moves of the year, right? $14 move down here today. Big move down. Anytime I see a big move like this, it tells me there are two potential setups that I want to make sure I'm watching for the following day. I can definitely, obviously, we'd like to sell some pullbacks here on the oil, right? But you'll see tonight. If the bears can't hold this pullback, we make it a nice juicy reversal back to that 105 tomorrow. So oil is definitely one of my favorite markets for Wednesday's trading session. Now, speaking of Wednesday, before we go into each individual chart here tonight, let me just make sure we're all on the same page here for tomorrow, because tomorrow is kind of the first day of kind of a 3-day binge on jobs. It's kind of looking at the jobs report as we go later on this week. This is the first week of the month of July, and so the first Friday of every 1 month is that employment number. Now, this is a big deal as we go into this first week, because as you may have heard last week, I know it was kind of pre-holiday, but last week the Fed kept talking about how, well, it's not a recession yet because the jobs markets are still so strong, right? The strong jobs market makes it very difficult to call this a recession. Well, we're going to find out just how strong the jobs market is this week, and this is definitely something that I think will be a common theme throughout the markets and probably a lot of analyst commentary this week here as well. For example, tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, some of the biggest news we have tomorrow is at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. The ISM Services Index, the service industry jobs. And of course, what the Fed oftentimes tells us is their most important news report is that JOLTS report, the Job Openings, Layoffs, and Transfers Survey. That's tomorrow at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. I can't think of anything more important than that pair of news reports when it comes to setting things up for Friday's non-farm payrolls. Later on in the session, obviously, the the FOMC minutes. These are basically the notes from not last week, before that FOMC announcement. That will definitely be something you want to keep on your radar for tomorrow as well. So if I had to guess tomorrow where the best kind of catalyst will be, we definitely will keep our eyes open to see if John Williams or any other Fed speakers move things around tomorrow. But from what we know right now, right, and this could change obviously, 10 o'clock ISM services, 10 o'clock JOLTS report, and then definitely stick around for some fireworks, leftover fireworks from last night for the FOMC meeting minutes at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Those are the two big headlines I'll be watching tomorrow in our trade room. And then don't forget, we got more jobs coming on Thursday too. ADP, jobless claims. So we got more of the jobs thing coming here. Again, kind of a trifecta, 3 days in a row of jobs, and more jobs here as we see just how stable that job market really is. And that will definitely be something I think a lot of people are watching here. So you want to make sure you keep that on your radar as well. Back to our charts here right now. Now, guys, whether you trade one of these markets or you trade all of these markets, I'm going to cover my favorite trades on each one of these charts. You'll learn something new throughout the entire video. And don't forget, I do like to provide different trade variations, different advanced setups as we go deeper into this lesson tonight. So make sure you stick around all the way to the end. I'll make it worth your while for getting comfortable here and watching the entire video all the way through. Let's jump first over to the NASDAQ here. We'll go NASDAQ, S&P, and then, of course, over on the crude oil, which oil might be the most interesting chart here of the night here tonight. Over the NASDAQ, though, first things first, this is a pretty straightforward game plan, the NASDAQ right now. The most, and really the only factor we have here right now is that strong bull move that we see here today. Market, of course, took a nosedive overnight. World kind of woke up after the holiday and said, wait a second, this could be a recessionary week here this week. Clearly, of course, the buyers took control, got their 1, 2, 3 reversal, and now we get a pretty strong move. Anytime we see a strong move in one direction, we know the odds are pretty good we're going to see a pullback and a retest of that high. At that point now, right, so buyers obviously looking to buy that pullback at some point tomorrow. At that point, the next question is do we double top off that high and get a reversal? Double top reversals, one of my favorite types of reversals. Or do we break through that high, got that 12,000 big round number going higher? And then what you also want to think too is on the pullback. On that pullback, can, for whatever reason, the sellers break this thing down, right, and we get some sort of a reversal? I would imagine you're back down into that range magnet and potentially back down to retest those lows. So buyers have a pretty straightforward game plan. They want to wait for that pullback, buy the breakout, going higher. Bears, of course, they want to sell that double top off the high, and of course they want to sell that break here and disconnect that pullback and basically the pullback into a reversal. So how do we trade this stuff right now? What's the low-hanging fruit? What's the easiest kind of best way to make some money in a market like this? The key really is to wait for that pullback right now. And we get that pullback, what you want to think about here is trying to trap in in this case, the sellers, right, around the moving average. So imagine that we pull back. Again, I like this channel. I draw the channel off the highs, off that low. I like that spot. I like this trend line coming up. There's a lot of levels of support that we can look forward to using here. The key, though, is get that pullback off the high. Once we pull back, nice and deep pullback to attract more buyers, think about now bears coming in and trying to sell that first pullback. Once they come in, try to get short, right? We start seeing those red candles, seeing that signal tomorrow in our trade room. Then we think, okay, put yourself in the shoes of the sellers. Where would their stops be? No. Where would their pain be, right? That's the way I teach it to my students. Think about where that pain is and buy right into those stop losses for what I call a failure setup. Now, failures oftentimes will turn into pullbacks. And so you want to watch that first pullback as we go, right? This could be what we call a failure into a pullback combination. And again, looking for a retest of that high. Now, at what point on this pullback, right? What point will that become a reversal? Well, think of it this way. Let's say we do get that pullback, but now instead of those bears coming in, trying and failing back up, now the bears come in and they jump off that moving average, right? Once they get that 1-2 jump off the EMA, okay, once that jump happens, then we get a 1-2-3 reversal. Market momentum turns, and now we can start looking for shorts on the way back down to that trading range, or hopefully, ideally, back to that 11,400, back down to today's low. Now, the trick is, at this stage, mark that trend line off the lows, then bring it up around that high. And what I always do is I always look left and try to find a prior swing up there and get above a prior swing. Those prior swings are awesome for things like trap setups. We get above the moving average. I can look for a failure setup, and then I can grab that pullback off the EMA, off the moving average as we go. Here's a really easy way to think about it too. The size of that first leg down, can be used as a measuring tool for that third leg. First leg and third leg, in most cases, will help you kind of figure out where that final target is. So again, I'm going to look for that failure and that snap back up. But if those bears, if they can take control of this by jumping off the moving average, then we hurry up, we go trap high, buyer failure, pullback setup, all these specific entry patterns and entry setups we talk about in that free trading course, which reminds me, I know that most of you guys and gals have taken the free course. You've learned all of these setups, and I know you're trading them well because you guys email me all the time every week about how well you're doing with this stuff off the free course. But listen, if you're here for the first time today, if you haven't learned all the entry tactics that we use in our trade room, what I'll do is I'll put a little link up here for you in the upper right hand corner. Grab that little link that just popped up there and take the free trading course. If you're like me and you hate missing the best trades each day, or you're tired of taking so many losses, you're making too many mental mistakes, I'll tell you right now, the roadmap that I teach in that free trading course will get you right on track, start getting you better results, especially for folks who are trying to transition out of a 9-to-5 job and into a full-time trading career. Everything you learn in that free course can be directly correlated to day trading, swing trading. I like futures. I have a lot of students that use this with ETFs like QQQ as well. So grab that link, learn that strategy. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. That way, the next time I say pullback, failure into pullback combination, you'll know exactly the time frames we use and how to trade this. Guys, I have a few more of these pullbacks. I got a few more pullbacks and a couple more reversals we'll talk about here in a moment. We'll grab those on the S&P. Right? So if you want to learn more pullback entries and more reversals, make sure you keep on watching. I'll cover that on the E-mini. Now, another question. What if we keep going higher here? Right? What's the game plan if we just keep on going higher? We know how I want to play this. I want to play this if it pulls back right now. What if it keeps going higher here? Well, the key is you always want to think about where the market wants to go next. At this point, the next logical spot up here is that basically 12,000, right? It's 11,970 and change, right? That is basically a big prior low up there before we get dragged back into that 1,200 or 12,100 big range overhead there. We have to think that 12,000 is the psychological magnet for where the market wants to go next. So if it does keep going, what you want to do is you want to keep adjusting this channel a little bit higher. Okay, that'll be the key to success if it does keep on grinding higher. So let's just say, for example, that we do end up kind of pushing higher here right now, right, overnight. Easy. Take a new trend line out, draw off that high, bring it down off those lows. Remember, look left on these things, right? Look left on these. Find some of these prior swings. And again, the goal is very, very simple. Get under prior swings, get underneath the moving average, right? Trap in those bears and look for that pop back up to retest the high. Same thing we just talked about here on that initial pullback here. So just keep waiting, basically keep waiting for that pullback. One last thing, then we'll go to the S&P here. One last thing, if we do get that pullback and we go back and retest that high, what's the best way for me now to short that double top reversal? Well, let's talk about that, because the key here is momentum. Momentum is still very bullish at that point. So at this point, we get that pullback, we go back and retest the high, right? Now, mission accomplished. Okay, we've retested that high. That's what we expect to get out of the NQ. Now learn this system. Learn this little setup right here. This is a great reversal setup. So as we go back and retest those highs now, remember, the smart money's buying down here, right? Smart money's buying nice and low. The weekends, you know, the rookies in the market, the sucker at the poker table who just sat down with a handful of chips and wants to learn to play, right? That's who's buying up around those highs. Professional traders, they don't buy high, right? That makes them professionals. At that point now, we want to try to use the small hands, the weak hands, the stops as fuel. What you have to remember is, if I buy a pullback here, I have all of that momentum to help that trade, right? That gives me a good edge. But if I try selling off the high, I don't have any edge, right? I have no momentum. at this point, there's nothing that can really benefit that trade going lower. So what to do is I have to basically find an edge. And to get that edge, I want to trap in those weekend buyers. Think about now buyers trying once, trying twice. I like to wait for 2 tries because, again, we're going against that momentum. Once you find those 2 tries, and again, assume now we've retested that high now. Once we have those buyers trying twice, now think about where those stops are, right? Think about where the pain is. Think about where you can sell, where the weekend buyers are going to be in trouble, right? That's exactly where we want to find that short. I'll talk a lot more about these signals in that free video class that I mentioned earlier. But at this point now, I want that nice strong signal closing below the moving average, and we're selling into those stops as we go lower. That is one part of that short. It's a 2-try failure off that double top test. Now, as the market goes lower, this is where things get good because now we know the bears want to go back into this range. We know now momentum has turned, and now what I can do is I can find a new trend line off that low. I can bring it right up around that high, and this becomes one of my favorite trades off that high. Now, again, I love traps, right? Traps are my favorite off those first touches of that channel. This could be a trap. It could be a failure. It could be a pullback. Any of the entry signals, the setups you guys learn in that free trading course. But this is one of my favorite sequences here. Buy that deep pullback after a big strong move. Take some profit off up around that high. Wait for the weekends to get trapped in, sell into those stops going lower, and then as the market rolls over here, we're simply getting into those positions off the high of that channel, looking for the potentially that dump back down into that trading range. Keep that on your radar. And remember, everything I'm talking about right now in the NASDAQ can also be applied to the S&P as well. Let's keep going, though, shall we? Got the NASDAQ's looking pretty good here. Let's grab the S&P. S&P, of course, is very similar on this. You will obviously see some key differences here. One very obvious difference here being that they haven't retested that big high. The NASDAQ, of course, pushed right on through it. What's the most important factor here right now on the S&P? What's the biggest kind of clue for me right now? The biggest clue for me here is the strength of that move. Kind of get one of those little pop and grind channels going on, right? We know pop and grind channels. If you watched previous videos, I talk a lot about pop and grind channels. But simple. Very strong move. Anytime we see a strong move, we expect to see a pullback and a retest, in this case, of that high, right? Now, this obviously may keep grinding higher here. We may end up getting that same thing we talked about on the NASDAQ earlier, but that is the key component. And really, just like on the NASDAQ, we know that buyers, right? Buyers want to buy the pullback. They want to buy the breakout going higher here. We know sellers, right? Sellers can sell off double top. Bears can sell if this pullback breaks down, right? The bears can sell that double top reversal. They can sell that breakdown, right? So, again, everything we talked about earlier on the NASDAQ can pretty much be applied here to the S&P as well. Let's talk about some different kind of strategies here on this. For example, let's say, we get a relatively sharp pullback here overnight. This could easily happen, right? What if we see a real sharp pullback overnight? What you want to remember is whenever we see a real strong move, the odds are better we're going to get a retest of that level, right? So what I always tell my students is if you see a relatively modest pullback, then absolutely we're going in for that failure into pullback combo back to retest that high. But if it really slices through, this is where you want to start thinking about this particular setup. It's a 2-try failure. Why? Because the strength of that pullback. Let those bears try once. Let them try twice. Notice how I do this. It's a higher high. Why? Because sellers want to sell high. Buyers want to buy low. If I want to trap in the bears in this case to use their stop losses as fuel for a run back higher, I want to let those bears try twice at a higher high. Very easy, very simple clue to look for here. That'll be our 2-try failure. Now, when you get these deep pullbacks like this, they oftentimes will snap, and you won't get that pullback entry that we talked about earlier. Again, 2-try failure, and a pullback will be great. But a lot of times that pullback just simply won't pull back for us, or the moving average, because it has so many bears trapped in. In that situation, what you want to do is look for a trap before we get back to retest the high. Okay, so think about that deep pullback. The deep pullback traps in and fools a lot of those bears. And again, this could easily happen here right now on the Nasdaq as well. So these are very interchangeable here on both of these markets. Trapping those bears on a really sharp, deep pullback off the high. And then again, where's the objective? The objective is to go back up and retest the high, grab that trap right below a prior swing on the way back up to retest those highs here. That's another variation of that pullback. Here's another one. Now, we talked about this earlier, how if they pull back and if the bears come in and hold that moving average and jump, what do we call that? A 1, 2, 3 reversal? Absolutely. Let's mark off that low, mark off that high, sell off that high, right? We talked about this already. First leg, third leg are the objectives, right? Okay, you know that already. Now, oftentimes what happens on these, though, especially after a wild first day back, is maybe we see something like this, right? We get a sharp move lower, then it starts to grind down. It isn't pull back and jump. What happens is it kind of grinds, right? And grinds and grinds. These can be a little bit tricky because they don't feel like they're reversals, but they're obviously reversal because they're moving lower, right? Kind of grinding down. Once you see this thing start to grind, that's your giveaway. Now draw that trend line off those lows, bring it up around that big high. And this is one of my favorite trades, right? Find those prior swings, look for that trap above that high. First test of that channel is always the best test. Get above the moving average. Buyers can now get trapped in with a failure. And again, think about that first leg and third leg are going to be some good targets here. Again, this is pretty easy. We know where the low of day is from yesterday or from today. That'll be a pretty easy target for us as we go lower. So keep that kind of pop and grind reversal, right? Keep that on your radar for tomorrow as well. And again, remember, if we do keep on running higher here, I'm going to simply adjust that channel, make it maybe a little bit steeper, keep on waiting for that pull back, that failure, into that pullback combo and the retest of that high, right? That same basic idea here. And then just like on the NASDAQ, think about now that 1, that 2, right? Use those stops as fuel, grab that new channel, that same sequence that we talked before, right here off that high, right? We can buy that dip, take that profit off at the retest the high, rope in the weekends, buying right into that high. And then, of course, right, we look for that short coming in off that new channel. We're selling that double top reversal, whether it be a 2-try failure pattern or whether it be the first test off the high of that channel. All right, we're looking pretty good. Now, here's a question for you. What if we pop up, we pull back, and we blast, right? What does a breakout look like? What does a breakout look like in that situation? How do we buy it? How do we sell it as it goes higher like this? Let's talk about that here on the crude oil, because crude oil really is setting up here to do something very similar to that here right now. Wrapping things up in the oil now. And of course, again, everything we talked about so far here on the S&P and the NASDAQ are pretty interchangeable. Boy, how about that oil though? Right? A big move down today, $14 move. The first time we've even had a taste of sub, 3 figures or 3 digits, a taste of under 100 in quite a while. I think all of us were cheering this thing down today, not only because the short, right, that we saw earlier, but because of the just the overall the impact it's having right now on the world we live in. What's the most important factor right now on oil? The most important factor, there are 2 big keys here. One of them is obviously this big move down. Now, what does a big move down tell me? Now, first of all, there's a difference between a strong move and a big move. Okay, remember, anytime we see a strong move, what do we expect? A pullback and a retest of that low, right? Remember, anytime we see a strong move, we expect basically another leg in the same direction. But this is a big move, though. What's the difference? Well, a big move oftentimes goes too far. And so the following day, we kind of anticipate a deeper pullback. This morning, for example, we saw a big move down on the Nasdaq and the S&P, and so we're waiting for that relatively deep pullback to avoid selling too low. So that's what you want to think about whenever we see a really, really, really big move. This is a pretty big move here. Oil loves to make a $5 move. And so we almost tripled that, right? So you can see it's a very, very big chart here, all the way from the 1145 down to that 97.41, right? So just over $14. So you got to think right now, even though we all love this low price, if you want to be a seller at this point, right? If you want to be a seller here, it's tough to want to sell this low. And that is a really big clue for us. We'd like to see a much deeper pullback, potentially up around some area like this, right around that 101.53 area. Another big clue on this chart is that range rotation off the low. Range rotation off the low. Why is that important? Well, we've talked about this before, but in case you're here for the first time here today, when we have a trading range, in this case a bear market, into a trading range, we rotate below the low of that trading range. Now, whenever I have a bear market into a trading range, I want to look for resistance levels like triangles, like prior swings, and I want to sell off those areas of resistance, right? That's where bears would love to sell here right now. They can sell high, they can sell off resistance. The challenge of this situation, though, is we have that rotation. The rotation coming in off of this low oftentimes can just break out and keep on running. Oftentimes, these create what I call a slingshot reversal, where we come off of underneath that trading range. The bears, of course, right, they want to sell up around here, but with all of that momentum moving, and again, when you think about it, that big move down, we may not have a lot of sellers who are comfortable selling down here. They may want to sell a little bit higher up, right around that maybe 105 area here for tomorrow. That is a really, really big clue here as well. And you'll notice too that trend line coming up off of this low. When this rotates off that low, that trend line becomes a very big thorn in the side of the sellers here, just because, of course, there's no direct line of sight back down to retest the low. So unlike on the E-minis, we already have a strong move that has been retested. So it's not like there's any unfinished business, right? The S&P and the Nasdaq, they have some unfinished business to attend to. In other words, retest not high. The oil does not have that anymore, right? If all we had was a strong move down like this and we're pulling back, I would say let's try to get that retest first, then look for anything going in the opposite direction. But we've already got that retest. So now it opens up the window, the door wide open here for the bulls to come in. So we're definitely bearish. I'm definitely not calling a reversal in this market by any means. But what would happen as the market goes higher here, right? How would I sell it, right? How would I sell it off the high? How would I buy it as we're going lower? And can I keep in mind, a lot of this here right now can be used along with the S&P and the Nasdaq on those breakouts going higher here. First things first, right? First things first. Let's say, for example, we do make it up around these highs here. I've got pendulum swing resistance. I've got prior swing resistance. Great spot for a short. The problem is momentum. Well, the problem is momentum and that trend line coming up. So we talked about this a little bit earlier in this video. Whenever I'm concerned about the strength of that pullback, I like to use that try failure, right? That's definitely on my radar for tomorrow up here. And then because we have that trend line coming in, there really are two ways you can trade this thing. You can sell off of that trend line. That's always the best possible entry. But sometimes what happens is sometimes we don't actually get that signal off that trend line, and you're left selling basically into stop losses, right? Because of course you have that one try, two try. Remember, we get that deep pullback off the low. The buyers come in. We're going to use their stops as fuel, ultimately, to make that run back down to retest the low. The challenge in this one is we need the 2-try rule in play to absorb that bullish momentum coming off of the low. And then we also need that trend line to be avoided, right? What you got to be careful with on these is let's say, for example, the trend line's right there. Got to be careful it pops up, right? A little 1, 2, right? I can't sell into that. I've got to get underneath it. And again, either use that trend line as the entry signal, right, as the entry level, or simply sell into those stop losses and use those stops as, pardon the term, but as fuel, right, for that move going back down again. And again, remember, your job is not done yet. Once this thing starts to drop, now go out, mark up those prior swings. We know where the market wants to get to. They want to go back down to retest the low. So find that new channel off those lows. Okay, draw channels backwards. You'll learn more about that in that free video, that free trading course. Grab that trend line off that low, bring it up to find that channel, and don't miss that first test off that high. I always say first test, right? I want the first time we touch the high of that new channel and any of the failures or traps or pullback setups that I teach you guys inside that free trading course will be off that high. So I like that sequence here. That may not be pretty. It may get pretty ugly up there. So really stay patient for the right setup. Now, what is very common in these situations is we get this thing to pop up, but instead of the buyers coming in and trying twice and failing for that short, now the buyers come in and say, nice, let's do this, right? And they jump off that moving average. Now, at this point, we have to assume that 105, which is that next kind of, big 5 round number, is the next objective at this point. This becomes pretty easy at this point now. Now mark off that high, mark off that low, look left, find those prior swings, grab that trap. At the very least, though, get underneath the 21 moving average, trap in those bears, trying to sell it short, and then, of course, use their stop losses as fuel on that failure pattern. Again, like I mentioned earlier, first leg and third leg is a good way to do this, but you got to think that 105 level will be a really easy, juicy target if we can get something here before we get there tomorrow. So watch that kind of 1-2 jump, right? That jump off the moving average, it pushes through that pendulum swing, and now we're getting aggressive buying that first pullback off that channel. Another setup that happens a lot in these kind of slingshots is we see a pop and grind, right? Whereas we get that run higher, right? The buyers never even really get a chance to buy and hold that pullback, right? It just keeps on grinding and grinding. And this is very common whenever we have a big move in one direction that kind of breaks. Like, remember, we already have that retest of that low. So it's not like there's some unfinished business here right now for the bears, right? Now, remember, again, we get a lot of news tomorrow morning. If we see some news come out tomorrow that really kind of, solidifies the jobs market falling apart, the recession, that may be enough fundamentally to keep the lid on this reversal. But we'll know when we see it, right? Once it pops up and grinds higher on this, then we mark off those highs, right? We mark off that low, think about where those prior swings are, get underneath those prior swings, and again, whether it's a trap setup or a failure off the moving average, this is where the money is right there, right? And again, think about now, right, that first leg, third leg, definitely leave that runner for that 105 if we can get there. All right, so keep an eye on that pullback, and again, that pullback may be a short, right, off the high, or it may hold and grind going higher here. Can I buy this market? Can I buy it off that low? For example, if I go back and retest that low right now, can I buy that low? Absolutely you can. Right, there's a range above us here. At that point, what's the signal though? It's another one of those 2-try failures because, again, we're so bearish. So, again, remember, the smart money, right? The big money in the market, the wise money, they're selling high, right? These are the weak hands selling down here. So trap in those weak hands. Let them try twice because, again, we're so bearish right now, and use those stops for that blast going higher. Love me a double bottom reversal by trapping in those weak hands as we go. And then if we keep going lower, lower. We got to think here. 95 coming in, right? Coming in hot here. Where do we think the entry will be, though? Well, think about it, right? If they take out that low, if they hold that pullback, and they jump off that moving average. It's an easy one, right? That's a 1, 2, 3 breakout going lower. Easy. Mark that low, mark that high, find that short off of that high, right? That's pretty straightforward there. We've talked about that a couple times already. First leg, third leg. So that is an easy one. Or maybe a pop and a grinder going lower there. One of my favorites. Mark that low, mark that high, get up above some of those prior swings, get those traps, those failures, and down from there. First leg, right, and third leg. So, again, keep those breakouts on your radar. Just be very careful, though. Just be very careful. We don't want to sell into that low, right? We're already very low on this, in kind of the bigger picture right now. So really make sure they take out that low and then hold it. Once they get that hold, then we know, okay, we're looking for more here, and I can mark up that new channel. I can grab that short off the high of that channel. Now, guys, obviously, I'm just covering the basics here tonight. These are where my favorite trades will be setting up for tomorrow. And then tomorrow morning in the trade room, we open up at 8 o'clock Eastern time, and we'll go out and we'll trade all this stuff together. We plan the trades tonight, and we trade the plan tomorrow. And speaking of tomorrow, guys, if you're looking for a good place to learn and trade along, if you're missing the best trades each day, or you're taking too many losses, making too many mental mistakes, that are costing you money right now, what are you waiting for? Grab the link in the description. I'll put all the free course links to get started, all the membership links. I'll put that right below me tonight in the description of the YouTube video, or I'll put a big button for you on the website right below me here tonight. Grab that link. Get registered. We get a bunch of membership specials as we go into a brand new month of July. Grab one of the bonuses for today. Get registered. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to call the office. I'll be here to answer questions about getting registered for tomorrow morning's trade room, or about the best brokers to use and charts to use, and different markets to work on. So whatever question you guys have, don't be afraid to call the office. You can also drop questions, of course, in the comment section below, or use that live chat here on the lower right-hand corner. All right, guys, wrapping things up here for tonight. Hope you learned a bunch in this video. The good stuff, though, is tomorrow morning at the opening bell in our trade room. Now, get out of here. Rest up tonight. I'm sure nobody got much sleep last night. The kids were definitely fooling around with fireworks in my neighborhood to the wee hours of the morning. So looking forward to a good night's sleep tonight. Hope you guys, again, enjoyed the Independence Day holiday. Always one of my favorite times of the year here. But don't miss tomorrow, though. 8 o'clock Eastern time in our trade room. We'll do it together. That's the place to be. If I don't see you guys tomorrow morning, of course, you better come back and join me tomorrow night on tomorrow night's video. We're gonna run it back and get ready for Thursday's trading session. It's jobs, and hopefully nice big winners for us tomorrow morning, you guys in the trade room. I'm out of here, guys. That's it for me. Be well, be nice to each other, and you better be here next time, right? All right. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.